today's video I want to discuss the Trench Ghost Paladin, what fuels this ghost-ridden vehicle, and also discuss examples from real-world belief when spirits came to Earth. So, welcome back to the trenches, and let's begin. Heretic priests, who rise as trench ghosts, resume the command of their dead followers in the afterlife, performing a parody. They become the nobility and commanders of the dead, echoing the role they had in life. Such mighty shades of the dead dimly recall the desire to rise in the hierarchy of the heretical order that drove them in life, and their thirst for glory gives them no respite even in death. Their life's ambition now denied to them, these ghost leaders instead set about creating petty kingdoms and domains which they rule over as undead tyrants, compulsion driving them to pursue the goals of glory and power that are now out of their reach. They create crude makeshift scepters and crowns, striving to fulfill the aspirations that still gnaw at them, granting them no rest. Empty symbols of meaningless titles they vainly declare themselves to hold. The most powerful of them become ghost kings, holding shadowy courts in the ruined temples and desecrated basilisks of no man's land, making insane proclamations and setting policies for their followers to enact. Even though each day is the same as the one before for the ghosts, there is nothing but coldness, a terrible sense of emptiness and slow decay into black, sentient dust. Lofty plains of conquest and expansion of their domains only leads to the same end, a pointless rule over cold, barren land and corpses. Such existence drives the vain ghost kings into deep pits of despair and hatred, driven by a burning jealousy towards all the living. The ghosts envy the mortals who can still hope to attain their ambitions, while the dead are doomed for all eternity. Even the warmth of the flames of hell is denied to them. Only in battle can the undead feel in the tiniest spark of significance. When they sense the presence of the living, the ghosts fall silently but eagerly into rank and await their leader's command to go forth into battle once more. A trench ghost warband may stalk their prey for years, holding fierce grudges against any they fight. This includes other trench ghost warbands, for the ghosts are proud and vain. The mightiest ghost kings and queens, tyrants, duchesses and marquises are venomously jealous of each other, frequently declaring war and blood feuds upon their rivals, whom they see as usurpers and false kings. Such undead despots often go to war riding tank palanquins, scavenged from armoured vehicles and broken tanks abandoned in no man's land. The aristocracy of the trench ghosts are not powered by diesel or petrol. Instead, the vehicles become animated by the souls that serve the Ghost King in eternal slavery. A servant who displeases their master in life may be punished in death by becoming one of the enslaved wraiths, pulling the tank palanquin in no man's land. Some of these damned wretches are chained to the tanks with barbed hooks, collars and shackles, while others are ground to dust and imprisoned in the tank engines, their wails echoing through its structure as the vehicle lurches into motion, draining the spirit of those trapped within. There is no fate more miserable for a trench ghost. Atop the tank palanquin rides the proud Wraith Lord itself, the vehicle acting as both a hideous parody of a throne, as well as granting its rider a great degree of protection and a lofty position to rain down a hail of rusted bullets upon their enemies, despite the rust and decay eating away at it. Shots bounce off at the ghastly tank, as almost no weapon has the power to penetrate their armour. Over the years, tank palanquins become festooned with trophies, captured banners and flags, as well as armaments taken from the enemies of the Ghost King. Their troops bring gold, works of art and artefacts of old as tributes, which are then crudely attached to the vehicle. The spectral nobles try to fill the gnawing emptiness within by surrounding themselves with testimonies of their past victories. Yet no matter how many relics they tie to their mobile thrones with barbed wire, or how many banners of vanquished companies they fly, ultimately the Ghost Kings know they sit in a meaningless throne of nothing, so they trundle onwards to the next battle, to the next slaughter, to the next conquest, to add to their roll of domains, carefully recorded by ghostly scribes who endlessly drone the lists of their dread master's victories in an attempt to appease their cold wrath. When the eerie searchlights of the tank palanquins flicker in the mists, rolling across no man's land, and as the wailing choir of barbed wire banshees announce the arrival of their lord, the wise turn and won't run. For once you hear the rumbling of the tank palanquin and the undead lord's cold eyes have seen you, it will be too late to flee. First, I was sadly unable to find a real World War I version of the palanquin. The horses did pull some artillery during that period, which is a relevant parallel. The tanks seemed to move with the horse equivalent, the enslaved wraith, and others being ground into dust, i.e. fuel, and thus getting the tank moving between those two elements. So where do the ghosts fall within the trench law? Neither heaven or hell claim them, but within the Battle of the Trenches, they are a permanent threat to what happens there. So they are like a few other possibilities we've seen in the law, such as Baba Yaga, a third independent faction. If we look into Catholic beliefs, there are references there to spirits visiting the living, according to Catholic.com. Many say that the souls of the dead shouldn't be roaming around amongst the living, since upon death their immaterial soul separates from the material body until the resurrection. In sacred scripture, we read of spirits of humans appearing to the living. For example, the witch at Endor calls up the ghosts of the prophet Samuel. The fact that the witch was shocked by the event suggests that her previous claims of raising spirits were probably false, but scripture presents this as an actual event without qualification. We're also told that Judas Maccabeus met the ghost of Onias, the high priest, in a vision. In the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples saw Moses and Elijah, who had not yet resurrected, with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. Prior to this, the disciples thought Jesus himself was a ghost, indicating that they had at least an idea of ghosts. Appearing after his resurrection rather than correct the idea of ghosts, Jesus simply said, "He isn't one." So all that fits quite nicely with the Trench Crusade lore, as we have spirits appearing upon Earth. So let me know what you think to this lore for the Trench Crusade. Do you think the Trench ghosts interesting? I find them an interesting addition with great potential, and they feel like one of the worst fates in the Crusade in terms of their lives, especially if you get ground up into ghost fuel. I'd love at some point them to play a bigger role. The longer the war goes on, I think it makes a certain sense that there will be more and more ghost troopers added to their rank. There would be an interesting third faction that could break the deadlock in some way. And if you like this video on the Trench Crusade, then why not try this one? And if you want a whole bunch of Trench Crusade videos, there's a playlist on the channel. There are also weekly videos on 40k and 2 playlists for that, one with everything and one focusing on the dark age of technology. And just to put into the end of the video here, sort of last minute, I want to say a thank you to everyone who subscribed, liked and commented on the videos. About a week ago, upon time of recording this, I just passed 4k, and that feels really cool. Making videos on YouTube in general is very much ups and downs. You get great months and you get bad months. And I think I've largely learned to ride that out, but it does give you a nice glowing feeling when you have 4,000 subscribers. So again, thank you for that. I do appreciate it.